Merci pour votre présence ici à notre conférence de presse sur la motion par consentement unanime par rapport aux sanctions Toomaj. We are excited that this unanimous consent motion regarding Toomaj sanctions will be presented later today in the House of Commons. Who is Toomaj? Toomaj Salehi is a famous Iranian rap artist in Iran who is well loved by millions of Iranians, and not just for his music, but even more so for the contents in his songs. 2 months ago, Toomaj was sentenced to death simply for exercising his fundamental rights of freedom of expression and daring to write lyrics that question the regime of the Islamic Republic by pointing to their corruption and human rights abuses. Imagine Drake was sentenced to death here in Canada simply for criticizing the government in his songs. Canadians would be outraged, and that's the horror Iranians feel. Imaginez l'artiste Drake a été condamné à mort simplement pour ses paroles qui critiquaient le gouvernement. Seulement pour critiquer le gouvernement à cause de ses paroles contre le régime islamiste en Iran, pour ses paroles anti-régime. Toomaj was tortured. He had his legs and arms broken, and they injected him with unknown substances while he was in detainment in the prison cells in Iran to extract false confessions. We want Toomaj Salehi's name to echo through the halls of Parliament and reverberate in each and every one of the parliamentarians here. And that is why Tara and I are here today on behalf of Iranian Justice Collective to send a clear and resolute message, to have the government send this message, that when there is crimes against humanity that are perpetrated and when human rights are abused, they will not go with impunity, and there will be a price to pay. Nous voulons que le gouvernement canadien envoie un message clair qu'il doit y avoir un coût pour les abus des droits de la personne. Nous proposons les sanctions Toomaj. Ça, c'est une liste de 31 officiels du régime qui sont impliqués directement dans les sentences de Toomaj qui font partie du système judiciaire et de 20 000 autres prisonniers politiques en Iran. Until such time that the House finally lists the IRGC on the terrorist list, we propose the cost be more targeted sanctions. We propose Toomaj sanctions, which is a list of 31 regime officials in the judicial system, prosecutors and judges directly implicated in the sentencing of Toomaj and in the wrongful detention of 20,000 other political prisoners languishing in Iran's jails today. Unlike in Canada, where there is the rule of law, the Islamic Revolutionary Court in Iran is neither independent nor separate. It is a direct arm of the regime that suppresses dissidents. The list of 31 names was compiled by Iranian human rights lawyers in Iran, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and vetted by the organization Justice for Iran in the UK. We are excited that today a unanimous consent motion will be presented in the House of Commons where we expect full party support to condemn the death sentence of Toomaj, to support the Toomaj sanctions list, to condemn all civil rights abuses committed by this gender apartheid regime, and to show their continued support for freedom and peace-loving Iranians in the Woman Life Revolutionary Movement, Woman Life Freedom Revolutionary Movement. Various Iranian American groups are independently pushing legislation like Toomaj Act in the United States. Nous remercions les membres de Parlement à travers les partis politiques pour leur solidarité, Avant que je tourne la parole aux membres de Parlement et sénatrices, j'aimerais demander à ma collègue Tara de partager quelques mots. Having left Iran less than 5 years ago, Tara, could you share some of your thoughts on Toomaj and growing up in such a repressive regime like the Islamic Republic of Iran?
My name is Tara. I am the youngest member of the Iranian Justice Collective and one of the hundreds of Iranian youth who found inspiration in Toomaj Salehi. Toomaj is a 34-year-old rapper born into a family of political activists. His name carries many meanings, but the one he cherishes most is fearless horse rider. Like Toomaj, I come from the lower ethnic community, where men and women ride horses shoulder by shoulder, fighting for their beliefs and values with courage. 5 years ago, in June, I left Iran and I came to Canada to follow my dreams. Leaving my home was hard, but the government's control over the innocent people of Iran was too much to bear. It affects every part of our daily lives. 2 years ago, I started listening to Toomaj. His bravery inspired me so deeply. Imagine knowing that rapping is illegal in Iran, yet choosing to use your legal name and voice to fight against one of the most brutal regimes in the world. Toomaj knew that rapping could cost him his life. Despite facing aggression and oppression, he kept going. This is why I continue. This is why I strive to be his voice. Toomaj was speaking out for me and youth of Iran. And now it's my turn to do the same. I could have been Mahsa Jina Amini. I could have been one of the many girls who brutally tortured and killed by the Islamic Republic of Iran. But today, I'm here with the chance to be the voice for the youth of Iran, to fight for our freedom. Every day, I carry the pain and hope of my people. Toomaj has never killed anyone or caused harm. His only weapon is his voice. And through his rap, he bravely challenged the oppressive Islamic Republic of Iran. He has defended women's rights and called for the fundamental political change in a regime that enforced gender apartheid. The regime's crimes against humanity have been documented by the independent fact-finding mission on Iran, established by the United Nations to investigate these crimes. Yet now, Toomaj faces a death sentence for nothing more than singing a song. For decades, the Islamic Republic of Iran has used executions and death penalty to silence its people and crush dissent. But Toomaj, our beloved son of Iran, belongs on the stage, not in a prison cell. He needs our support. We can't let this light be extinguished. We must fight for Toomaj, as he fought for us, with all the passion and power we possess. The time for action is now. Stand with Toomaj. Stand for justice. Stand for Iran. Today, we call upon the government of Canada to take decisive action against the oppressive officials in Iran. We urge them to mitigate the abuse within the Iranian judiciary system, including sanctioning 31 individuals who have sentenced many to death without even allowing them a chance to defend themselves. Let us be the voice that Toomaj can no longer use. Let us be the force that defends the defenseless. Stand with Toomaj. Stand for justice. Stand for peace. Stand for Iran.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tara. I would like to ask NDP Member of Parliament from Edmonton Strathcona, Heather McPherson, who's leading this motion, to come forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your words. They were very powerful. I'm here today in support of the brave Iranian Canadians and the people of Iran who are advocating for human rights and freedom. Today, we are highlighting the Iranian Justice Collective's appeal to the Government of Canada to impose targeted sanctions on judges, prosecutors, and investigators of Iran's Islamic revolutionary courts, including on the new Toomaj list. These individuals are responsible for sham trials, torture, and the inhumane treatment of Iranian protesters and political dissidents. The Toomaj list is named for Iranian musician and rapper and vocal critic of the Iranian regime. Toomaj Salehi has been condemned to death by the regime. I will be moving a unanimous consent motion in the House of Commons today, after question period, which will ask the Government of Canada to impose these sanctions and would also have the Canadian House of Commons condemn the death sentence of Toomaj Salehi and condemn gender apartheid, violations of civil liberties, killings, intimidation, and acts of violence initiated by the Islamic Republic against the people of Iran. I will also ask the House to reiterate its unconditional support for Iranians that are advocating for human rights and democracy as part of the Women, Life, Freedom movement. We know that Canadian sanction regime has serious problems. The Foreign Affairs Committee produced a study on sanctions several months ago that detailed concerns about investigations, enforcement, and transparency. Canada needs to do far better when it comes to naming perpetrators of abuse, listing them, and then following through of the seizing of any assets in Canada. As you know, the NDP also supports additional measures to strengthen Canada's response to the Iranian regime, including listing the IRGC while ensuring that innocent Iranian Canadians are protected. New Democrats call for the Iran study at Foreign Affairs, and over the past several weeks, we have heard overwhelming evidence from experts and Iranian Canadians about the need for Canada to do more. I am happy to stand today with the Iranian Justice Collective and support their call to Canada. It's important that these sanctions are named now. I'm calling on all parties in the House of Commons to support this motion, this non-partisan, unanimous consent motion in the House today, to send a strong signal to the Iranian regime that Canadians support Iranians. We support the many brave Iranian women and men who are advocating for their human rights, and the perpetrators of abuse will be held responsible. Women, life, freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heather. I'd like to now call upon Member of Parliament from Willowdale, from the Liberal Party, Ali Ehsassi.
Thank you very much, Nazanin. Thank you very much, Tara. Thank you very much, Heather. Thank you, Senator, for being here today. Today, indeed, is a proud day. And this is a day that has come about thanks to the tireless efforts of the Iranian Justice Collective. In particular, Nazanin and Tara have really demonstrated a lot of leadership. I also know that Heather, consistently during the course of the last 2 years, has always been speaking up about the terrible atrocities that are going on in Iran. As Tara noted in her remarks, we have to stand up for justice. And I'm so happy to see that all of the parties recognize full well how important it is that we condemn the officials in Iran and that we do take a position on the wholesale miscarriage of justice in Iran. The reality is that during the movement, which was largely led by youth, 22,000 people were thrown in jail. In addition to that, we should bear in mind that the Nobel laureate, Narges Mohammadi, still remains in jail. This is something that is unprecedented anywhere in the world. We know that many, many lawyers who chose to stand with those protesters are also languishing in jail. In addition to that, as was pointed out, Toomaj, who truly is an individual who epitomizes courage and speaking to power, is a beloved individual throughout Iran, especially amongst the youth who look up to him as a role model. So recognizing the fact that we're all coming together and we're urging our government to impose sanctions on 31 people is a very, very important step. These are individuals that work with the revolutionary courts. The revolutionary courts do not understand the concept of justice. There are no legal underpinnings to their proceedings. So it's important that Iranians do see that Canada stands with them, that we are listening, and that we look forward to holding these individuals accountable so that others will know that we did not turn a blind eye to the terrible atrocities that continue to unfold within Iran. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. J'aimerais présenter sénatrice Julie Miville-Dechêne du Québec. Merci.
Merci. D'abord, je vous remercie toutes les deux, Heather et tous ceux qui sont ici, parce qu'en effet, j'ai été inspirée par le travail que vous avez commencé, Heather. Donc, quelques mots pour vous dire que je vais présenter également au Sénat une motion condamnant la peine de mort infligée à Toomaj Salehi et pressant le gouvernement d'imposer des sanctions à tous les Iraniens, tous les officiels qui ont participé à ces simulacres de procès et à la torture de prisonniers politiques. Beaucoup de voix contestataires se sont tues en Iran à cause de la répression féroce du régime islamique. Le rappeur Toomaj Salehi est une des rares exceptions. Son courage est inouï. Ce jeune artiste de 33 ans ou 34 ans a commencé avant même la mort de Mahsa Amini à chanter sa révolte, sa rage contre le sang qui coule, l'absence de liberté, la torture, les exactions d'un régime autoritaire et répressif contre son propre peuple. Il rappe contre la corruption des mollahs, pour la liberté et l'unité du peuple iranien. Cela lui a valu la condamnation à mort qu'il nous faut dénoncer haut et fort. C'est un minimum. No musicians in Iran has been as courageous and outspoken as Toomaj, even among expatriates. Rap is illegal in Iran. Toomaj has been recording underground his videos and has become an icon and a symbol of hope for a whole generation of young Iranians deprived of freedom. The minimum we can do as senator is to use our voice to support Toomaj and condemn this death sentence. And I want also, in finishing, to say thank you to the Iranian Justice Collective to have approached us for this. This is the Iranian diaspora in Canada talking. C'est une initiative, bien sûr, de la diaspora iranienne, des Canadiens d'origine iranienne qui sont au Canada, et nous voulons porter leur voix. Merci.
Merci, sénatrice. This concludes our press conference. However, we are all open to questions. Nous sommes ici pour répondre à des questions du presse.
All right, so we'll start with the questions on Zoom. Ashley Burke, the floor is yours.
Thanks for taking my question. For the Iranian Justice Collective, from your perspective, why is it important for the government to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization? What do you think of the fact that it hasn't happened yet? And what difference, if all, would it have made in Toomaj's case?
Yes. 6 years ago, there was unanimously, the House of Commons had called for the IRGC to be on the terrorist list. Again, the House, just a few weeks ago, said that they would list the IRGC on the terrorist list. And now, as the Iranian Canadian community, we wait for this listing. It's very important for our community to see this IRGC listed on the terrorist list because they are the ones that are directly implicated in suppressing the rights of all Iranians. They are the ones that are responsible for beating women on the streets that are not wearing a veil, dragging them into police vans, raping them, sending them to jail, and God forbid, sentencing them to death. They are the representation of everything that is evil in this world, and they are suppressing, they are persecuting ethnic and religious minorities. They are suffocating freedom of expression. They basically don't let anyone breathe in that country. You're not allowed to sing in public. You're not allowed to dance in public. You're not allowed to hold your lover's hand in the streets. Everything that is good and represents the values of modernity and Western liberal democracies, they want to crush. So for us, it's extremely important to list them on the terrorist list, not just because of what they do to Iranians, but the security risks that they pose to all Canadians. We know of regime officials and affiliates that are here in Canada. In fact, there was a report done by Negar Moshtahedi in Global News that listed over 700 of these regime affiliates here. What they are doing is they're buying up properties, very expensive properties in West Vancouver, in Toronto, throughout Canada, with dirty laundered money. And they're continuing to harass Iranian Canadians and others for just speaking out for the rights of others in Iran. They are harassing the families of people inside Iran. Tara, I'll keep myself silent, but there are members in Iranian Justice Collective even that have been harassed. Their families in Iran have been harassed, and we've been told that if we don't keep our mouth shut, they will do to us what we are standing for in condemning the women that have been abused by this regime. They will do to us what we are seeing them do to those in Iran. So this is not just a security risk for Iranian Canadians, but let's not forget, the Islamic Republic of Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. They supply the most amount of funding and training to terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and they are basically the head of the snake that needs to be addressed for all of global security.
And as a follow-up, what difference would the listing make? Like, what's the current system in place right now, from your perspective? Where is it falling short? And then if afterwards Tara is comfortable sharing, I think you alluded there that she might have a personal story about what she's faced here in Canada in terms of threats or harassment. If she's comfortable, I'd be interested in hearing about what she's gone through.
If the IRGC was listed on the terrorist, we wouldn't have to be here today calling for targeted sanctions against, let's just say, this Toomaj list where we have listed 31 members of the regime's judiciary implicated in the sentencing of Toomaj and other innocent Iranians. If all of the IRGC was listed on the terrorist list, we wouldn't have to worry so much. We wouldn't have to look behind our shoulders. Whenever we go to an event, we're always panning the room and trying to see who looks suspicious and who we might have to tell the RCMP or police about their presence. So I don't know if you want to add something, Tara, about...
Over the past year, I had the experience of working with the survivor of Women Life Freedom, even those that they already sought asylum or came to the other safe countries. So what is still very interesting, it's even like seeking asylum, getting somewhere safe, it's not the end of story. They try to find you, harass you. They receive phone calls every day telling them that they need to stop advocating for their own rights. So even being in Canada, or even in like other countries, that doesn't mean you're safe. It means as long as the Islamic Republic of Iran is in charge, you are still in danger.
People joining online have their hand raised, so I'll look for them. Massa? I see that you have your hand raised. I'm going to give you the permission to talk so you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. My question is for
So I'm
MP
sorry,
McPherson.
you can't ask question if you're not a accredited member of the press gallery. I'm sorry, you can't ask question. I was thinking you were going to make a statement.
Oh, okay. Is there later on opportunity to ask questions?
Well, you'll be able to contact the group for that, but if you're not an accredited member of the
She did.
Press-
She did. She contacted the press gallery in
Yes.
advance to have an opportunity to ask questions.
well, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. So my question is addressed to MP McPherson. You are presenting this motion today, hoping for it to go through. However, we've had many rounds of sanctions, targeted sanctions against individuals and entities that are connected with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we haven't seen many of those sanctions to be carried out, or at least we don't have much information of how they're going through. In the recent meetings of the Foreign Affairs Committee with Mr. Ehsassi, there was a statement made that only $79,000 of the assets of the thugs, the agents of Islamic Republic was seized here in Canada after Women Life Freedom Movement, which doesn't seem to be enough. If this motion goes through, will your party make sure that they are also enforced in Canada? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And it goes back to some of the things that I have said in my statement. Canada's sanction regime is not strong enough. There is no transparency. We don't understand how people are put on the lists. There is no enforcement or very little enforcement. We have no ability to understand how the enforcement is being done. I've asked order paper questions. I've asked questions in the House. And as we see the government of Canada using sanctions as a larger tool in foreign policy, there needs to be more done to make sure that that transparency is there and that the sanctions are actually being enforced. That includes resources. You know, we were happy to see the government of Canada allocate $76 million for that. But again, we have no way of knowing where that money has gone, if that money has been spent, and what the impacts of that have been. We've been long calling on this. It was me that brought forward the study in the Foreign Affairs Committee to look at our sanction regime. We'll continue to do everything we can to press the government to take sanction enforcement, sanction transparency, and our sanction regime much more seriously. Because you're right. You know, at this point, the sanction regime is not as effective as it needs to be, and those that are sanctioned know that.
Thank you. And if it's okay, I can ask a follow-up question from Nazanin. Nazanin, so should these sanctions go through, I know that you are also advocating for bringing in more artists, more people who are seeking asylum to Canada. Do you think that such sanctions will help the process of getting more people out of the situation they are in, also in Iran and a third country? Thank you.
We are tackling, with Iranian Justice Collective, we are tackling several different points. So I think these 2 points are a little bit independent of one another. Yes, we do want to see the IRGC listed on the terrorist list, more so from a security point of view. But we are also demanding of the Minister of Immigration to consider upping the number of Iranian refugees, particularly having a look at the crisis that's currently happening in Turkey with thousands of Iranian-born refugees in Turkey that have a UNHCR number. They are bona fide refugees, and yet they are getting a deportation order from the Turkish government to leave. And we all know what that would mean for the refugees that have escaped Iran. They would face some severe consequences if they are returned. So as a group, we have asked the Minister of Immigration's office to have a look at specific refugees, and we're asking for just an increase from 200 to 500 Iranian refugees who are in desperate need. Can I Yes, yes, please.
I would like also to add a point about your question. I want to mention that Iranian Justice Collective specifically has no power to bring like a specific, again, like our case or refugee to Canada. What we are doing at the moment is just advocating through the government of Canada. As already Nazanin mentioned, we are asking government to increase the number for the the refugees, Iranian refugees and asylum seekers. But again, it's all depends on the government of Canada, and all we can do at the moment is advocating for them. Ask them to accelerate or expedite the process. Honestly, the fastest means of bringing at the moment to Canada a refugee is through the sponsorship program. But again, even with raising enough funds, securing their accommodation, it takes at least 2 years to bring a refugee within the Canada. Imagine a refugee is Turkey is in a danger of being deported anytime. They will never give you any notice to know that you're going to be deported tomorrow. They will come, knock their door, and then just deport them back to the Iran. So 2 years is such a long time for a refugee to wait for their application to be approved in Canada. So all we can do is asking the government of Canada to first expedite all this process, and secondly, open like a new stream for the Iranian or like program for the Iranian asylum seekers.
All right, and I can see that Nagar, you have your hand raised. If you have questions, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this next question is for anyone who can answer it. Out of these 31 judicial officials that you've listed, are any of them on any sort of list in Canada right now? And if they're not, does that mean that they can come freely travel to Canada and have assets, etc.? Now, my follow-up question would be, if this motion passes, what kind of impact would that have in terms of them traveling to Canada, their family members, or having assets in this country? Thank you.
We had vetted our list. We had actually more numbers, but then when we compared our list to the ones that had already sanctioned, and we crossed them off. So yes, all 31 have not been sanctioned by Canada. And what your second question was, if they can come freely to Canada. That's a question that I would feel more comfortable to pass to one of the members of Parliament. Perhaps Ali Ehsassi could answer to that.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. As you know, so far the government has adopted a number of different steps to make sure that the highest functionaries of the Islamic Republic are barred and prohibited from coming to Canada. But what is being suggested here is a very important step. The reality is there are numerous people who have been sanctioned, but I personally don't think we've done a good job making sure that people within Iran recognize full well that we are listening to their voices. We are following the proceedings that are taking place against very, very prominent individuals. Once we do that, once we hopefully do add these 31 people to the list, then that will certainly send a signal to the entire judiciary and the revolutionary courts that those individuals that are cooperating and are doing terrible things to Iranians within Iran, that they will be held to account. And that is the type of message that would reinforce and embolden Iranians to know that we actually have been listening and we're not looking the other way. In addition to that, I think should Canada do this, which I think it is high time to do so, we would demonstrate to other countries, because when it does come to sanctions, there is a lot of coordination that goes on between various countries. But if we were the first ones to do this, then we would certainly demonstrate leadership, and other countries would look to us to make sure that these individuals and others that are associated with the judiciary are listed as well. Thank you.
Just to follow up, just to make an assumption, does that mean then that the sanctions do happen with these 31 individuals, that they can't obviously come to Canada then? Like that would be part of it, correct?
Absolutely. Like no individual who is sanctioned would ever consider the possibility of coming here, because not only could they be pursued legally, but also our immigration authorities would make sure that they do not have the ability to enter Canada and step on our soil.
Thank you.
Ashley Burke, if you want to ask one more question, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For MP Ehsassi, what are some of the obstacles and the reasons that the government has given that they can't list the IRGC as a terrorist organization to date? If you can explain sort of what the main roadblocks have been.
Thank you for that question. I must confess that I have spoken to numerous officials within numerous bureaucracies, and the reality of the matter is each one of them highlight different concerns. So I, for one, am not certain as to which one of those concerns it is that is standing in the way of us listing the IRGC. In addition to that, as you know full well, there are a number of different departments that are part of that process. So as you can imagine, there are some departments that are more inclined to do so, and others that are less so. But I certainly hope that our government will heed the advice of experts. We'll listen to members of the Iranian Canadian community. We'll listen to various members of Parliament who have been very, very vocal about this issue, and I certainly hope we will see some action soon. Thank you.
Merci. Thank you.